Alright, a very good evening to all of you. Welcome to another video, and today we are going to talk about Wilsmer-Huck reaction or DMF-POCl3. Okay, so they are not correlated, means DMF-POCl3 is a very common reagent that is used for Wilsmer-Huck reaction, but there can be some other reagents also that can be used, right? So it's a combination of a name reaction and a very popular reagent, and that is what we are going to discuss today. How it reacts with various substrates, what is the important part that you need to remember for this particular reaction, right? So before we begin, if you're interested to join my classes on Unacademy, just go through this.
Hey guys, so I'm a verified educator on Unacademy, and along with that I'm also available on the Unacademy Plus platform where I'm taking live classes along with other educators. So in case you're interested in attending the live classes, you can subscribe to the Unacademy Plus platform using my referral code, that is SETHI, and that will give you 10% discount. Alright, and in case you're not interested in attending the live classes, you can watch the free courses that are available on the Unacademy. For that, all you need to do is go to the Unacademy website or download the Unacademy Learning app and search my name over there, that is SETHI. Once you do that, you will get the access to all the free courses that are available on the Unacademy platform. Alright, now let's begin with the video.
Alright, so let's begin with Wilsmer-Huck reaction. Now, first we need to understand the mechanism. Why it is important, we'll be doing some examples and you'll understand why am I emphasizing on the mechanism of this reaction. It is very simple, very straightforward, but let's just quickly look into the mechanism of the Wilsmer-Huck reaction, right? So like the reagent says, DMF and POCl3 is the most common reagent, so we'll take the example of the mechanism through that, and then I'll also discuss some other substrates where DMF is not taken, some other solvent is taken, right? So DMF stands for dimethyl formamide, right? So this is the structure for dimethyl formamide, dimethyl, okay, and then we have a aldehyde group attached, right? So this is dimethyl formamide. Basically, there is a amide bond that is formed, so that is why it is called dimethyl formamide. This is the structure. This is hydrogen over here, and then we have a amide bond, right? So Na dimethyl formamide, or simply dimethyl formamide, that is DMF. Now, what happens next is that when we are adding POCl3, so you know that through various reactions, you would be knowing by now that phosphorus and oxygen have some affinity towards one another, right? So what happens? This oxygen attacks this phosphorus. Okay. Once this attack takes place, what do we get next? Basically, you can say that this nitrogen donates its electrons like this, and this oxygen attacks the phosphorus, right? So what do we get in the end is this oxygen binds to the phosphorus, and once it binds to the phosphorus, this O minus is formed. This O minus comes back, migrates back, and one of the chlorides is basically eliminated or kicked off. Right, so one Cl is kicked off, and what do we get? So we get POCl2 like this, okay, and along with that, what do we get? We get Me2, okay, I'll just write Me2 over here, and a positive charge on the nitrogen, right? There will be a positive charge on the nitrogen. Now what happens next is that the chloride that had eliminated from here, so this carbon over here becomes electrophilic in nature, because you can see nitrogen is over here and then there is oxygen over here. So what happens next is this chloride attacks at this carbon, and this double bond migrates like this. Okay. So now what is the next intermediate that we get? The next intermediate that we get is this. Just quickly let me just draw. So we have hydrogen, O, like I just write phosphorus, and then there are three substrates, right? So I'll just write it like this, and along with that we have NMe2, okay, because Cl minus attacked, so this double bond migrated back to the nitrogen. Now the next step is that we have Cl attached over here. Now the next step is this nitrogen migrates back and this leaves, okay, so this oxygen leaves. So finally what do we get? This is very, very important. This is the very important intermediate that we get in a Wilsmer-Huck reaction, okay. So NMe2, again a positive charge, and we have a chloride over here. So this intermediate over here, I can show it to you with a different marker also. This intermediate is very, very important. Okay. So this intermediate, what is it? It is basically a electrophile. Okay. This intermediate over here, this is nothing but a electrophile. Okay. So this is very important. This electrophile is very, very important. This carbon you can see over here becomes electrophilic in nature. Right. Now just remember this, and with the help of this we will try to do the reaction. So like I said, this is electrophilic. So if we have any nucleophile present in different substrates, the nucleophile will attack this particular carbon. And how, basically, what is the reaction? What does DMF-POCl3 do? It generally leads to formylation. Okay, it generally leads to formylation. What exactly is formylation? Let's look into that. Okay. So, for example, let's take indole. Okay, let's take indole or any heterocyclic. So, generally, you would see that in CH standard examination, a lot of questions are asked from heterocyclic chemistry based on formylation. And in heterocyclic chemistry, formylation is very widely used. What is the reason behind that? Because the aldehyde moiety, okay, or aldehyde basically functional group in a heterocyclic molecule, it can be changed into a lot of substrates. Aldehyde is a very reactive functional group, so you can make a lot of molecules from that aldehyde, or you can functionalize a molecule with that particular aldehyde. So that is why making of the aldehyde is very, very important, and that's why you see a lot of examples where Wilsmer-Haack reaction is used in heterocyclic chemistry, right? So generally it is applied to heterocyclic chemistry, but like I said, you have to imagine that that electrophilic center is very important. So if you have any nucleophile, that is going to react with that heterocyclic electrophilic center, right? So let's take an example. So let's take an example of pyrrole. Okay, so we have pyrrole over here, and if you have general idea of heterocyclic chemistry, you would know that this position of a pyrrole is the most nucleophilic. Okay, this position over here is the most nucleophilic. So what will happen? Let's draw the intermediate that came with the Wilsmer-Haack reaction when we are adding dimethyl formamide and POCl3. So so this is the intermediate, positive charge on the nitrogen, right? And then we have two methyl groups, and then we have a chlorine over here and a hydrogen. Now what happens is that, like I said, this is the most nucleophilic position, right? So, or for convenience right now, for just convenience, we will just write over here nucleophile, okay? So that there is no confusion. So we'll just write nucleophile over here, right? So this nucleophile is going to attack this particular carbon over here, okay? Then you can show that this bond over here migrates back to nitrogen, and then this again comes back and chloride is eliminated. So what will we get? We'll basically get nucleophile attached to, we'll have N. So again we'll have a double bond, N positive, and basically chloride is substituted, right? So this is the intermediate that we get. And now further, if we do simple water workup, that means if we simply add water to this, okay, if we simply add water to this, okay, what will happen is this will convert into aldehyde. Okay, so this is the simple. You can, like with water, actually it's very simple. You know, if any of you don't know the mechanism, just from imine, how do we get the carbonyl group? You can just Google it. It's a very simple reaction. So I'm not explaining to you. So when you add water, this imine will get converted into an aldehyde or a ketone. Okay, like depending on whether you have a hydrogen or a methyl. If there's a methyl, it will convert it to ketone. Since we have a hydrogen over here, it is going to convert it to an aldehyde. Okay, so this is the whole thing, that whatever nucleophile we have, that will attack this carbon center and will convert into an aldehyde. So this is basically your Wilsmer-Haack reaction or formylation. Okay, Wilsmer-Haack formylation. It's very commonly called as Wilsmer-Haack formylation. Now the question is, how will basically the questions be put up, or what kind of questions have been asked in the CSIR examination before? So one very common question that has been asked is, so let me give you a few examples. So one of the common questions that has been asked, let me take an example over here. So let's say we have thiophene, and along with thiophene we have a pyrrole. Okay, and what I do is I add DMF-POCl3, and along with that then later on I'll do the workup. Sometimes it will not be given that water is being added, so you have to take for granted, or you can think of it that water will also be added later on. Okay, it's a workup procedure. Later on you will add the workup. That once the reaction is completed, you do workup. Workup is basically adding some acid or base to neutralize the reaction. So basically you can take it for granted that water will be added, right? So even if it is not mentioned, you can take for granted that water will be added, right? Now what is happening is, now you have to see which is the most nucleophilic position for formylation to take place. Now the most nucleophilic position over here is, this is where I say that organic chemistry is very connected, because now if you don't know among both these substrates which is more nucleophilic or which position is more nucleophilic, you will not be able to do this question. Okay, even though you know that this acts as electrophile and formylation will take place. So among both of these, this over here, the second position of a pyrrole is more nucleophilic. Okay, if you compare thiophene and pyrrole, okay, you can study about it, because over here in sulfur actually what happens, the resonance is there in both the cases, right? So there is resonance or mesomeric effect in both the cases, but the problem is that in sulfur, because of the poor overlap between the carbon p orbital and the sulfur's p orbital, okay, it is 3p, it is 2p. So because of poor overlap, the electron density of this ring is not that great, whereas electron density of this ring is very great, is much greater, right? And actually both second and third positions are nucleophilic. But if you look at the resonating structures, you will understand that the resonating structures in which the negative charge resides on the second positions are on the second position is more stable. Okay, when you look at the resonating structures, you will find that the negative charge, when it is residing on the second position, those resonating structures are more stable. So second position is slightly more nucleophilic as compared to third, and pyrrole in general is more nucleophilic than furan and thiophene. Okay, so thiophene is where sulfur is there, and furan oxygen will be there, right? So this heterocyclic scaffold is more nucleophilic. That is why if you are adding only one equivalent of this DMF POCl3, so selectively the formulation will take place at this position, and this will be the answer. Okay, so these are the kind of questions that are put up in CSIR net examination. Now let me take another example. Okay, so let me take another example of actually a 4 marker that was asked in the CSIR net examination, a 4 marker. Okay, so what was that question? So we had another heterocyclic scaffold, which is basically our indole. Okay, this is indole, and from the second position to this indole, we had a furan attached. Okay, and what had they given in the question? They had given that we are adding DMF POCl3 one equivalent. That is part A. Okay, so when you add one equivalent of this DMF POCl3 one equivalent, when you are adding one equivalent, you get some compound A, and then in the second part, you are adding excess of this. So what will happen? Okay. So when we add one equivalent, what will happen is, now you have to identify which over here is the most nucleophilic position. So the most nucleophilic position over here is actually the third position of indole. Like I said, you have to know the basic funda of reactivity of heterocyclic compounds. So in this, the indole ring is very electron rich. Again, you can see it is nothing but something like a pyrrole ring, a phenyl ring attached to a pyrrole ring, right? So this is also something similar to this. It is something similar to pyrrole, right? So in this case, what happens is actually due to electron donation, like electron donates over here, and this carbon over here, the third position of an indole is the most nucleophilic position, right? So when you add one equivalent, formylation will take place over here, and this will be a compound A. Okay, this will be a compound A where selectively formylation has taken place at this position. And when you add excess of DMF POCl3, the compound B that you will get is, then the formylation will take place over here. Okay, because like I said, in furan, thiophene and pyrrole, the second position is most nucleophilic. So when you add excess amount of DMF POCl3, then the formylation will take place selectively over here, right? So this is also nucleophilic, this is also nucleophilic, but when you are adding one equivalent, formylation will selectively take place at the more nucleophilic center, which in this case is our indole. Okay, so this is our product A, and then when you are adding excess, the formylation will take place at the second position of the furan, right? So this is the correct answer. This was a 4 marker in one of the very recent CSIR net examinations, right? Okay, so let's look at one more example. You can try and pause the video, draw the mechanism, and try to find out according to you what would be the answer. Okay, so let's say I have this substrate, I have a pyrrole. Okay, I have a pyrrole, and to this pyrrole, what I add is, I add a lactam. Okay, so again it is amide only, but a cyclic amide, which is called a lactam. So I add this along with POCl3. So now you can pause the video and try to find out the answer. This is where the mechanism of the reaction becomes very important. Okay, so I hope you have got to the answer. Now let's see what is the actual answer, or whether your answer is correct or not. Simply you have to go by the mechanism. First, what did we say? That the oxygen over here, I'll draw the mechanism in shortcut. Okay, so oxygen binds to this phosphorus, and one of the chlorides is kicked off. Okay, one of the chlorides is kicked off. So then what do we get? Once the chloride is kicked off, we have this oxygen bound to POCl2. Then the chloride over here attacks. Okay, chloride over here attacks. Again, this bond will migrate over here. Then this bond will come back, and then this will leave. Okay. So finally, what is the intermediate now that we got? The intermediate that we get is basically The next step over here is the addition of the nucleophile, which in this case is a pyrrole. Okay, so second position of pyrrole is a nucleophile, but let's consider it as a nucleophile. We will not take the second position, otherwise it will make the reaction very cumbersome, right? So we will take the nucleophile over here. So now the nucleophile comes, attacks this carbon. Okay, then this nitrogen bond migrates over here like this. This double bond migrates over here. Then this nitrogen will again attack, and chloride will be kicked off. So finally, what we'll get over here is this nitrogen, and then the nucleophile, which we can now draw the second position of pyrrole. Right now, we can draw it comfortably. The second position of pyrrole. Okay, this is our nucleophile, and then we'll have NH over here. Okay, and then what else? One second. Sorry, there will be a hydrogen over here. I forgot to draw. Okay, there will be a hydrogen over here. So this is the intermediate that we are going to get. Okay. Now you might think that now if you add water, what will happen? Again, now if you add water to this, okay, if you add water to this, what will happen? Now you might be thinking, again, this is a imine bond, so the water will attack at this particular carbon. Okay, then this bond will migrate. Okay, but you have to remember over here, this bond, the carbon nitrogen bond over here, which was earlier breaking when we had this as the substrate. Okay, when we had this as the substrate, where this, we can write it over here, nucleophile, to understand it better. So when this was the substrate, when we were adding water, this was converting into a carbonyl bond. Okay, this was converting into a CO bond, because this is a simple aliphatic imine. Okay, this was simple aliphatic imine in case of dimethyl formamide, because both of them are methyl groups. But when we consider over here, this is a cyclic amide. Okay, or this over here is cyclic amide. So this is a cyclic imine. Now cyclic imines are very, very stable. So what will happen is, when you add water, this bond, this carbon, this will not convert into a carbonyl bond, because if it converts into a carbonyl bond, this ring will break, and that will not happen. So in case of cyclic amides, what will happen is this ring will not break. So instead, what we'll get is, instead the water molecule will abstract this hydrogen over here. Instead it will abstract this hydrogen, and what we'll get is a stable imine. So the final product over here would be that the water molecule that we are adding, that will actually convert it into a simple imine. So this will be the product. This will not convert into a carbonyl, because the cyclic imines are quite stable. So that is why I was saying that the mechanism of the reaction is very, very important. Okay. Now there are certain other reactions as well, which basically are shown by the Wills-Merhaft reactions, like cyclization reactions. They are very, very important. Again, the mechanism of those reactions is very similar. That first a CHO is formed, and as I told you that CHO bond or aldehyde is very reactive. So if there is a possibility for intermolecular cyclization taking place, then that would happen, and we'll get a cyclic product, right? So we will also discuss those examples as well, but in the next video. So this was a basic overview of the mechanism of. So anyway, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up, and in case you have any kind of feedback related to my teaching, or if you want to request a particular topic, please let me know down in the comment section. I'll definitely try and make that video. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do subscribe to the channel as well, because it really motivates me to make more videos and regular videos for you guys, right? So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video, which is the part 2 of the Wills-Merhaft reaction.